Good afternoon. On behalf of my brothers and sisters Bob and Bill and Donna and our sister Karen, who is joining the service by web stream up in Walla Walla, Washington, we'd like you to feel welcome and help us celebrate the life of a very remarkable woman. I was very delighted to see a whole row of her colleagues in blue from the snore. That is touching. Thank you for being here. This is a chance for us to celebrate in a variety of ways Mom's life. And I want you to be under no illusion that you and I are going to go through this of our own free will. Mom had plans. I'm reminded of Nancy Reagan and her plans, and I think in part because Dad never wanted to talk about death and dying himself, Mom took the other approach in which she was very helpful in saying, here's what I would like. This is a letter she wrote to us back in 1998 of all times. She said, "My dear children, I love you very much, and I know you love me. And when I say, regarding her end of life, that this is what I want, I mean it." She said, "You may think I'm stubborn, but please just think of me as being determined and choleric." She says, "I am now X number of years of age, and you know that I have had a wonderful life. I do not want to spoil yours. I insist that you live yours to the hilt, loving God all the while. These are my orders, and I insist that you follow them. I love you all very much. Always, your mother." When I talked with my brothers, sisters, cousins, nephews, nieces, and we were sharing stories about Mom, I was struck by the fact that I had found in her Bible a note that she had written about my dad, that she felt described him, and yet it seemed entirely permissible to just transpose her, because for most of us, Cal and Alyse was one word for 63 years. So this is from Revelation chapter 14, verse 13. "Then a voice spoke to me from heaven, saying, 'Write this down. Blessed are those who die in the Lord, says the Spirit, for they will rest from their labors, and the good they have done will follow them.'" So we're here to honor the good that will certainly follow her. She had a number of favorite gospel and camp meeting songs that she wanted to be played. Terry was so gracious to be able to find in the archives some of those songs, and they were here. There was one that she wanted us to sing, and it's not in the current hymnal, but we found the words to it, and Miguel is going to be gracious enough to lead us in the singing of that song.
I found a friend in Jesus, he's everything to me. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. The lily of the valley, in him alone I see all I need to cleanse and make me fully whole. In sorrow he's my comfort, in trouble he's my stay. He tells me every care on him to roll. He's the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. He's the fairest of. Stanza number 3. He'll never, never leave me, nor yet forsake me here, while I leave my faith and do his blessed will.
Sweep me up to glory to see his blessed face.
fairest of 10,000 to my soul. Alyse was born September 21, 1925, to Edith Eileen Thomas and Edward Victor Hansen in San Jose, California, in their newly constructed house. She had two older siblings. Edward was 8 years old and Lucille was 3 years old when Alyse was born. Their happy family life was short-lived, for 3 years later, their father Edward died from a perforated peptic ulcer, leaving Edith at age 33 with 3 young children. Edith, her mom, went to cosmetology school and opened a beauty parlor in the front porch of their house, while Alyse and Lucille kept house, did the cooking, and managed to do the washing and drying of the towels for the beauty parlor. To further support the family, all the children, including 8-year-old Alyse, went to a ranch in Saratoga where they either cut up plums or apricots in a drying shed for a few cents per hour. Alyse attended Hester Grammar School from kindergarten to 6th grade, and then Herbert Hoover Junior High School for 7th and 8th grades. For the 9th and 10th grades, Alyse enrolled at Mountain View Academy. She and Lucille commuted on the train every day from San Jose. When Lucille graduated and was ready for college, Alyse's mother decided to move in order to be close to the girls as they went through college. She moved her beauty parlor to the St. Helena Sanitarium, where Lucille and Alyse attended PUC Prep and then PUC. During the first year of college, Alyse took secretarial courses, but then she had a spiritual awakening and felt called to take pre-nursing classes. She completed a concentrated series of classwork and transferred to Loma Linda School of Nursing in February 1945. In September 1946, the new medical student class arrived on campus, and Calvin Olsen was in that class. She did not meet him until the following year, since she was doing a 3-month pediatric nursing training at the Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital during this time. When they did meet in 1947, it was in the Loma Linda School cafeteria. No word on what they had to eat at their first meeting. My dad did say that he knew the second he saw her that he was going to marry her. They started dating while both were still in school and were married on April 21, 1948, after her graduation. Cal and Alyse moved several times as he finished his medical training, and they were in Martinez, California, when they decided to do the first of 5 adoptions. Eric was adopted in 1952, and Karen was adopted a year later. Mom was overjoyed with God's goodness. Due to Calvin's involvement with medical service in the U.S. Army, they continued to move with their young family, first to Texas and then Washington State for 2 years. They left military service and settled down in the small coastal town of Crescent City in Northern California, where my father joined the medical practice of his brother-in-law, Merle Peterson. During this time, a patient of Calvin's shared that she would have to give up her baby upon delivery, and with much prayer and consideration, Cal and Alyse decided to adopt the patient's baby, and Bob became their 3rd adopted child. When Cal and Alyse moved to Southern California to begin a surgery residence at the White Memorial Hospital, they continued a pattern of adopting with each move. Bill joined the family during the first part of the 4-year residency, and Donna was added towards the end 2 years later. When the number of adoptions reached 5, Cal and Alyse felt that they had done their part to improve humanity, and a call from the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists confirmed that they shared that belief. They wanted the growing Olsen family to go overseas as medical missionaries, but only if they stopped growing their family in size. Something about approaching orphanage status was mentioned as a deal breaker. Alyse agreed to go overseas on the overseas move, but not without some culture shock. She had become famous for her Tupperware parties in the neighborhood circles of Monterey Park, and those would have to end once she moved to Japan. She was also reluctant to give up her love of Velveeta cheese food, and Kraft Miracle Whip mayonnaise. She wrote earnest, heartfelt letters to the CEOs of both these companies, pleading for the recipes for each product, promising that she would never reveal the ingredients to anyone overseas.
Regretfully, they informed her that as much as they appreciated her zeal as a lifelong customer, they could not divulge their trade secrets. Most missionaries who mother 5 children find that task to be full-time work, but Alyse always had an organizational and energy gift that put General Patton to shame. She took on the role of director of nursing in Tokyo because she explained that most of the kids were in school during the day. That made it a no-brainer that she would repeat the same director role when the family moved to Singapore after 4 years in Japan, as by then all the kids were in school. As strongly as Alyse identified with her nursing leadership role, she identified even stronger with her mother role, and the family moved each time so she could be close to the children leaving for the next school level. In this, she was much like her own mother. Being separated from a child going off to school in a distant geography was the only sacrifice she felt she made during her 9 years in Asia. Early in their married life, Cal and Alyse had camped and skied at Dodge Ridge, and when they thought of returning to the U.S., they remembered this experience and their desire to reconnect with a classmate from medical school, Dr. Ted Howard. In August 1971, they came to Sonora to begin nursing and medical work that would span decades. Ever the organizer, Alyse took inventory of her new Tuolumne County surroundings. There was 1 stoplight in the entire county, 1 grocery store, 2 hospitals, and 13 physicians in the county. She believed there was room for improvement. She also found need to improvise as the family belongings arrived in the United States during a dock workers' strike, which meant for 11 months she organized the household with loaned hospital beds, plastic picnic tables, and assorted cast-offs from different charities. Ever the optimist, she believed this was God's way of making her appreciate her furniture even more when it finally arrived. Because the Olsen children were once again in school, it was only natural that Alyse sought to prove herself useful outside the home. She worked with Calvin as his nurse, but she also agreed to work as church secretary at the request of Pastor Mundy in September 1971. She maintained that position continuously for 30 years until 2001, something she was immensely pleased to have done. She then volunteered to continue in the same position for 2 more pastors for the next 10 years until 2011. She also served as church clerk for 38 years, helping to keep track of new members, transfer baptisms, and deaths. She did so during a period when record-keeping went from paper records to computer-based, a change that at times greatly tested her Christian experience. When Calvin finally retired, they made time for travel that connected them with people and groups that mattered most to them. With Gertrude and Merle Peterson, Voice of Prophecy groups, trips to the homes of children, grandchildren, and eventually great-grandchildren. One of the highlights of the travel each year for Alyse was a trip to Washington State, and particularly Walla Walla, where she was able to visit the extended families of her daughter Karen, who couldn't travel to see her son Bob, and his family. The trip this last summer was bittersweet, as Alyse could sense it might be the last one she would be able to make, given how frail she was feeling with what turned out to be a torn meniscus in her knee. It was that knee pain that finally convinced her that she should give up her beloved job of volunteering at the hospital gift shop, which she had planned on quitting in 2020. It's astounding to think she was still there virtually every Tuesday and complaining more bitterly about days with poor sales than her aches and pains. Giving up the volunteer job was going to be a blow to her desire to be useful, but she loved that she could still bring her great-grandson Gavin to Sabbath school here. Nothing pleased her more to know that her love of God and family would continue to be a positive influence to the 3rd and even 4th generations of her family. She loved to demonstrate Christ's love in practical ways. She's deeply missed. Some personal asides on my mom. I'm sure most of you echo my sentiments when I say, what an incredible woman, an incredible Nana, an incredible mom. When I was in my 30s, my birth mother, Joan, found me. I was not looking for her. She found me, and she told me that she was a Seventh-day Adventist. She was from Canada. She was a nurse at the hospital where my dad was doing his residency at the time, and she wanted a Seventh-day Adventist couple to adopt me. I was so happy to meet her, not because I was finding my long-lost mother, that I had a hole that I needed filled in my life, but because she had felt guilty for what she had done by giving me up for adoption, and I didn't ever want her to feel that way. I couldn't thank her enough for the incredible life she had given me, and for what to me it was the best mom and dad in the world. If any of you think my mom was timid, you didn't know her very well. She and my dad were adventurers. They dragged the 5 of us kids through Europe, Asia, the Middle East. I can remember seeing burning tires in the streets of Beirut. I remember being on a picnic in Vietnam, hiking back to the car and looking back 45 minutes later to the area we had been in the jungle with tracer bullets coming out of the jungle. My parents took us in and out of East Berlin through Checkpoint Charlie, which not a lot of people got to do. They even smuggled in religious literature to the Soviet Union. I remember being in the middle of Moscow at a park, meeting on Sabbath with a pastor secretly in a park. We felt like spies for God. She didn't want to miss any family functions ever. We would go skiing, backpacking. I don't think she really enjoyed backpacking that much. I know she did not like dehydrated food, so she would make us lug in cans of food, and I think she made us lug in a watermelon once, but it might just felt like that. I could be mistaken. I only saw my mom with messed up hair twice in her life. Once we went river rafting down the Stanislaus River, and my mom did not know how to swim. The other time we were on a roller coaster at Six Flags, and the roller coaster did a big loop one way, and then it did the same thing backwards. And at the end of the ride, after we had gone backwards, I turned around, looked at my mom, and her hair was all standing up like this. And I remember saying, "Mom," and she just, one swipe of her hand, and it was back to perfect. My mom was as close to a Jewish mother as a Seventh-day Adventist could be. Her weapon of choice was guilt, which she was very proficient at. I can remember coming home one weekend, and I decided I just didn't feel like going to church that Sabbath. So my mom went to church. She came home, and when she was making lunch, she was practically throwing dishes across the kitchen, glaring at me. So I never missed another Sabbath at church when I came home. One of the quickest ways into my mom's heart was to ask for seconds at Sabbath lunch. She loved people who loved her food. As any good Adventist boy, I grew up on a Sabbath diet of ketchup roast, cottage cheese loaf, my mom's frozen strawberry salad, which consisted of cream cheese, marshmallows, whipped cream, and a little hint of strawberry. And it was that it was that hint of strawberry that made it a salad, and she served it as such. When I took my mom to the hospital the day after Thanksgiving, one of the biggest things she said the whole time was how sorry she was. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm totally ruining your Thanksgiving." And I kept saying, "Mom, no, it's okay. It's totally okay. Don't worry about it." And she just kept saying she was ashamed of herself, that she just couldn't believe it. So when they finally got her on oxygen, and she was feeling much better on oxygen, she was still concentrating on how ashamed of herself she was. And she just blurted out, she said, "I'm a slut, a shameful slut." I said, "Mom, I don't know if there's things that I don't know about that you need to tell me, but I laughed until I cried. My mom, what it was that she was trying to think of the word to show how ashamed she was for ruining my holiday weekend, which was not the case at all. I don't know what my mom will do in heaven when there's no volunteer work to be done or no one to help. My mom loved caring for others, but she didn't like being cared for. We feel very lucky that she was driving her car, living on her own, volunteering at the hospital, doing everything that she loved with only 6 days at the end of a 94-year journey. It was an answer to prayer for both her and us, and it's the way she would have wanted to go. I think she left on her terms. My parents always taught me that heaven is going to be a wonderful place. My mom was always excited about going there. She wanted to see Jesus. She wanted to be with my dad again, be around people that she loves. And I know that there's room for everybody in heaven, including, and in this case, especially, for a shameful slut.
When I am down and all my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, when I am still and wait here in my silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more that I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more that I can be. You raise me up so I can on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I'm on your shoulders. You raise me out to more that I can be. You raise me up to more that I can be.
This has been good for us, hasn't it? Hearing so many of these wonderful stories. Bill, I've got to say, you've enriched my picture of Alyse on the roller coaster. You know, the hair, that is fantastic. I love that. And Eric, I don't know if I got this quote quite right, but what you shared, her quote, where she said, you know, I have had a rich and full life. And she says, I'm wanting you to go about living your life to the hilt and living it in love with God all the time. Boy, that just says it. When I think about Alyse, as you said, Cal and Alyse together, 30 years ago or so, my wife and I came, our children came here to Sonora. And I remember meeting them shortly after that. And when I think about their lives over these years, I think of this little quote. It's a little old-fashioned quote, but it's so good. It goes like this: you are the only Bible that some people will ever read. You're the only Bible that some people will ever read. And when I think about the two of them, to me it has been a wonderful thing to watch through the years that they have been evidence of a life that is full and rich, following Christ Jesus. Just living with Him, going about the adventure of life with every joy that He's meant for us to have. And that rich family life that you talk about, and this life of service and the life of blessing. So as I've watched them through the years, many times I thought about that. That was what came to my mind. And that's what I want to share with you today, what I think the heart of all that is, because that is our message of hope. They reminded us of what Jesus taught us and gave to us. Two foundations that I know about in Alyse's life that caused her to have a rich family life, to be in love with her family, in love with life, and that came from these two verses that when I asked the family, I said, can you tell me about her favorite verses from the Bible? These are the two that I heard about. The first one is Psalm 91:11. And it's the one that goes like this: He shall give His angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. And what that says to me is I can live in today, because tomorrow's all taken care of. God already knows about it. He has a plan. He knows how to lead me perfectly. So I can feel free to live in today. That means volunteering, perhaps. That might mean taking the family on a picnic to, where did you say, somewhere downtown in Asia? And that might mean all of those things, because you can say, when you know Jesus and you know you're in His hands and you know He's got the future, I can live in today. So that was one of the foundations. The other one was Ecclesiastes 9:10. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might. She certainly epitomized that, didn't she? You know, that whole idea of, I'm going to invest in life. I'm not going to be a spectator. I'm not going to be a watcher, because life is rich when you say, these are God's children, and God's given me a purpose, and I'm going to go about doing what He gave me the joy and the passion and the ability to do. That's what the world needs, is people who are on fire because God put a love and a passion in our heart. And we can just go do something with the people around us, and it changes everything. So that foundation of live in today and invest in life is what I saw. And I want you to notice, when you go back to Ecclesiastes 9 and you find that chapter, and it talks about whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Not many of us notice the verse before that, which says that you are commanded to live with joy with the wife of your youth. And I thought, that epitomizes what I saw in Cal and Alyse, the two of them enjoying life together. And he used to always call Alyse his bride. Remember that? It was always as though it was the wife of my youth, and we are rejoicing together. And I remember the two of them for that. And so how did she invest in life? What did she do? Well, I had several things come to mind. One is just that practical organizational side that was so strong in Alyse. She had that ability to make anything work, and that was evidenced in her working here as a secretary in the church for a long time, also in her work as a church clerk. And I began to think, I wonder how many church board meetings she went to. I remember her being there, and the church board meetings would sometimes go 2 to 3 hours. And she would give her report and stay and answer all the questions and follow through with every detail. And she had the answers. She could pretty much always look it up and look through her paperwork and find whatever was needed. And one other thing I remember is our Bible studies together. With friends in the community, there were different Bible studies that we had with groups in our church, and how they loved to enter into that and bring different insights. And I could tell that Alyse was always excited about the Bible because it said something about life and how to live, and I remember those times together. And the other thing that came to my mind as I thought about Alyse is I would call her a hospitality specialist. We are all specialists at something. God has given us these wonderful abilities. And what I remember of her was how many potlucks she must have helped in, how many times she put her hands to work, whatsoever your hand findeth to do, how many wedding showers or bridal showers and baby showers were conducted at the home, including the one for our oldest daughter, Jennifer, when she was expecting our first grandbaby, our little granddaughter, who's now 7 years old. She hosted that at the home there. So that is a very close and special thing for us. I even know, if I remember correctly, one graduation that was held at the home there. Lots of things that she got involved with. But even beyond the events, one of the things I remember distinctly is how Alyse made people feel when they were with her. Make them feel at home. Make them feel welcome. I noticed that it wasn't focused on her very long. If there was a conversation, it wasn't very long before, she was finding out about what was going on in their life, about their children, about their work, about whatever it was, and delighting in that. And there's an old saying that a really great person makes you feel like you're the most important person in the room and like you're the only one there. And I noticed her ability to do that on many occasions. That showed up in her work in the gift shop. I had the privilege of, my office was literally 2 doors from the gift shop for probably 12, 13 years in the new hospital. And I remember going by the gift shop regularly, and there was a certain day that was always her day, and she was there just like clockwork. And many times I would go by and I would see her listening intently to some family member who was going through some difficulty or hard time. And then there were a lot of times I'd go by and I'd see her delightfully handing a balloon to a child, or just rejoicing with that little kiddo in whatever it was that they wanted to talk about. Or maybe, mom or grandma was buying them a toy, and they were just having fun with that whole interchange. And it was so much fun to watch her in the gift shop setting through all of those years. Her life said to me, hope is real. Hope is real. This is not just a fantasy. Hope is real, and you can always choose hope. You can always choose hope. There's a wonderful proverb that goes like this: those who wish to sing will always find a song. Those who wish to sing will always find a song, and that's what I saw in her right up to age 94. I'm sure life wasn't easy. There were these times when she struggled with things, but she said, I'm going to find a way to express the love and the richness that I have and what God has put in me. I'm going to find a way to do something with that for others. I'm going to find a way to sing. It was only a few weeks ago that I remember talking with her about her work at the hospital, her volunteer work, and she told me that she missed seeing me around, and we had a nice conversation about things that are going on and what she was doing, and it was really a wonderful time together. And then it was just a week or two ago that somebody said to me, as I think we all are struggling with, how can she not be here? It's hard to imagine life without Alyse here. He said, how can that be? He said, I just saw her chasing her little great-grandson around the parking lot 2 weeks ago. So you can picture that right out here. We saw that, and I saw her several times going down the hall, and there goes her great-grandson, and there she goes right after him. It was fun to see. So to sum it up, in terms of what I believe she'd want us to take for our lives, I read this, and I've kept this close to my heart through the years, and I think she would love this. It's called Priorities. What I gave, I have. What I spent, I had. And what I kept, I lost. Now, all the things of life are all good. They're meant to be a blessing, but they don't last. But when we invest ourselves into our loved ones, into our family, into our those that we can serve, those that we can bless, wow, what a rich life. And the Lord can take that and transform it and make it last forever. Make it a blessing forever. It was the love of Jesus that gave her strength and kept her going and strengthened that love for family and for life, and that just kept showing up. I was asked today to bring a message of hope. And then it dawned on me, she's been bringing a message of hope with her life. Alyse has been bringing a message of hope with her life for a long time. Psalm 73:26 says, my flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. To know the Lord is to know life. Jesus said, I'm the resurrection and the life. And that was a reality for her. I know that the time came when things were harder for her. Our strength, for all of us, we have a time, if we live long enough, that our strength isn't what it used to be. But our portion, that which we receive and that which we can always count on, it's my inheritance, if you will, it's mine forever, is Jesus. And as long as Jesus is my portion, we always have every reason for comfort and for hope. Shall we pray? Thank you, Lord, for our friendship with Alyse, for the love that she put into so many lives, for those hands that worked so diligently, for the organizational skill that you gave her, for the very special love of Cal and Alyse, and for their beautiful family. Oh, today, Lord, we pray that you'd comfort this family and surround them with the love and strength that only you can give, that they can feel and receive the gift of your gracious hope and healing, your comfort, and to know, Lord, that just as Alyse showed us so well the meaning and the blessing of life, that we can receive that gift as well, and that we can live fully in Jesus Christ to the hilt, loving him and being with him every step of the way. Thank you for the new life that we can have in him, and that gift that we rejoice in as we celebrate Alyse's life today. Amen.
One of the things that meant a huge amount to Mom when Dad passed was the time that we spent hearing from all who had come to the church and just saying snippets, anecdotes, thoughts that meant something to you about Dad's life. And she thought that would be something that if people wanted to, she'd love to have happen today. On the other hand, there is also something that I became very familiar with, which is the Alyse eye roll. And that is if somebody was going on too long usually in church. She would look over at me and very discreetly, particularly so my dad wouldn't see it, she would just roll her eyes like, this is going on too long, isn't it? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break this into two parts. We're going to have about 7-8 minutes here, and then we're going to stop so that we can have some appreciation through video of her life as seen through the eyes of her family. And then we'll continue the conversation, the anecdotes, the storytelling over at the reception that will be held afterwards. And that way we'll all have a chance to be heard. Before we start there, I have just two. I wanted to read something from my sister Donna, and then my brother Bob has something he would like. Donna found this that I think is quite meaningful. Perhaps what made her beautiful was not her appearance or what she achieved, but in her love, and in her courage, and her audacity to believe no matter the darkness around her. Light ran strong and wild within her, and that was the way she came alive, and it should be in the eyes of her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. I love you, Mom. Yeah. Bob.
There's a little story I like to tell that shows my mom. You know, she was a firm believer in God, honest to a fault, I believe. We had taken a trip up together, north of Sacramento together. I just gotten my learner's permit, and she was letting me drive back. And we're coming back across the Delta, across the rice paddies there. First heavy rainstorm after the summer. And I'm driving 75, 85 miles an hour. Mom's telling me slow down, trying to tell me how to drive, and of course I wasn't listening to my mother. And I pulled out behind a semi to pass him in the fast lane, and I lost control of the vehicle. And I slammed in the guardrail in front of us and bounced back and hit the guardrail across the other lane. And all the traffic was sliding to a stop towards us. And almost before the traffic had come to a stop, Mom jumped out in a raging rainstorm, flung open the driver's door, told me to get out and get in the passenger seat. And she says, if the policeman asks who's driving, I will tell him, but otherwise I'll take the fall for you. Mom, I love you, and I'm going to miss you.
My name is Steve Baker. Terry and I moved here when Alyse was 51 years old. And to my knowledge, she's called me on the phone just one time. I was at my dental office. It was about 11 o'clock on a Thursday morning. And I got on the phone and said, hi, Alyse. And she was secretary here at the church. And my heart was starting to beat just a little bit quick. And she said, hi, Steve. I was just wondering if there was anything that you would like to add to the bulletin. Holy smokes. Alyse, please don't tell me that I'm the worship leader this Sabbath. Yes, but that's okay. Now, I've already gotten, and she had the whole list of everybody that I was supposed to have already taken care of. She says, all you need to do is take care of the music. I've already taken care of everything else. I kind of thought maybe you were a little busy or something, and I was supposed to have all that information to her by noon on Wednesday. And so, anyway, it just was her way. And she, without pelting me and without making me feel guilty, she just took care of it. She just took care of it. And anyway, I was in love with her before that, and let me tell you, after that.
For identifying yourself so the rest of us could know. And by the way, for 9 years, she could pack a family of 7 with 23 pieces of luggage and be out of a country in 30 minutes if needed. So Sonora was a piece of cake.
Say your name.
Is it Michael? We have the mic over here,
I'm
too.
Martha Cover with the Hospital Volunteers.
Yes.
She's amazing. I just saw her. Everybody liked her. These are a few of the comments I've heard the last few days. I'm not sure Alyse even missed a shift in the gift shop before the Lord sent her to ICU, so everyone had to time to tell her goodbye. Alyse joined the auxiliary at Sonora Regional Medical Center in 2005 and was the perfect fit in the gift shop. Over 5,200 hours or 1,300 4-hour shifts. Amazing, yes. Also amazing was her calm acceptance when the emergency department was remodeled, upsetting, rearranging, and relocating the gift shop to another temporary site. But Alyse was always calmly at her place through cold drafts or slow sales. Never complained, perfectly groomed, always. She was an elected officer as recording secretary, and her husband, Dr. Cal, was corresponding secretary of our volunteers for a term. Alyse was nominated for the Tuolumne County Commission on Aging as the Tuolumne County Senior Volunteer of the Year by one of her colleagues, an honor she deserved and appreciated. Friends and neighbors editors invited our volunteers to participate in the Cooking with the Clubs, and Alyse shared her family's Tuscan white bean and garlic soup and was featured in that issue. Alyse always inquired about family members and showed genuine concern. We are going to miss her.
Colleen Robson Carpenter. I bring prayers and condolences from the Nelson family. My sister-in-law Cindy and her older sister Cheryl, younger sister Kathy, and brother Michael remembers many years when both her dad and your dad were in the residency together, and she wanted me to be sure and pass that along to you. I think it's only fitting as a church secretary that she got to go to sleep in Jesus on a Friday and sleep for Sabbath. And next she'll see the Lord.
I'm June McMurray, and she was a friend of mine. We have a Bible study at my home on Wednesday morning, and Alyse was always there unless some repairman told her he'd be there, and so then she stayed. But a dear, dear, dear person. Now, she didn't want people to know how old she was, and when she was secretary, she just deleted her name. So we found out and had a nice birthday party for her, the ladies that have gathered together, and she had a really good time on her last birthday at our home. So I'm here to say how much I loved and appreciated her, and she was a very special person, and I'm going to miss her. All of us are going to miss her.
Thank you, Jean.
My name is Bonnie, and I just consider Aunt Alyse one of my favorite people ever. And over the years, we just had many a laugh and many a fun time together, including going to curves, exercising. You know, here she is 30 years older than me, and I'm huffing and puffing, and she's just going. She's just, you know, she's had to be in her mid-80s at that time, and she was very disgusted when she broke her hip and couldn't go to curves for a while. But one of my favorite memories is when I came here to the church, and she was the church secretary, and I went in and I said, Aunt Alyse, there's a certain book that I think that the church library might have. And she goes, oh yes, we have that. And I said, well, if you tell me where it is, you know, I can just go get it. And she goes, oh, no, just follow me. And, you know, she was just so spry. And we got to the library, and before I could say, what? Oh, no, there she was climbing up on a chair. And from the chair, she climbed up onto the table and reaching way, way up to the top shelf. And again, she was in her 80s. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you so much. And there she was. off the table, off the chair, and there was my book. And she was just amazing. Up until the very end, she was amazing.
Can't tell you the number of scoldings she got for climbing on ladders that she was not supposed to climb on. Thank you.
I'm Carolyn Smith. My husband Eden came here to replace Cal when he retired, and we were quite excited. We came to look at Sonora and spent some time in their beautiful home. And then when it was time for us to come, they hadn't found a home for us yet. And Cal and Alyse just, oh, come stay with us as long as you need to until you find a home. We were coming with a van, 4 teenagers, a dog. They don't have any pets, so they didn't then. Dog, a cat, a monitor lizard, and a feeder cage of white rats. This was my daughter Melissa's specialty. And a parakeet. And all the animals lived in the garage. It worked out really well. But I just thought with Alyse's beautiful home and her perfect garage and her beautiful yard that she didn't bat an eye at us and our menagerie. It was something else. But that's one of my favorite stories of just when I think of her, it's just how gracious she was to share what she had.
One more. Then we'll...
Victoria Benson and Aunt Alyse was my very, very special aunt. And we have always shared a very special and unique bond because we both were blessed by becoming mothers through adoption. In fact, my mom, Aunt Alyse, and Uncle Cal were with me when we had our United States readoption, and it was Aunt Alyse's hand that I was holding when I was signing the certificate for the United States readoption of my precious daughter. So she holds a very, very special place in my heart. I will always treasure the memories of her exuberance, her energy, her ready laughter. Cousin Bill, she would love what you shared today. She would love it, and she would be the first to be laughing because she loved to find the amusement and the joy in life. She was thoughtful and she was generous beyond measure. Every year for my birthday, which she never, ever missed, it was always $1 in the card plus some, like it was $100 and then $1 extra. And I want to tell you, it was the only time I can tell you I ever enjoyed getting older. She was classy, and everything about her was just beautiful. And it started from her heart, and it worked her way to the outside. Her hospitality, I think, as Bill had mentioned, it was unrivaled. She would often be the one serving the meal and would not sit for the dinner because she was so busy making sure that everybody else was fed and comfortable and happy and enjoying their meal. Aunt Alyse never missed a celebration for my daughter. She was there for her every birthday and her 2 graduations. My daughter graduated a couple of years ago, and Cousin Donna and Aunt Alyse came, and they had to have gotten up at least at 5 in the morning. And I want to tell you that Aunt Alyse was probably 92 years old at that time. And she stayed throughout the entire day and was there with us to celebrate. I love how she loved Jesus, and I love how that was such a natural part of her life. And I love how she incorporated Jesus into her life. And I know that she is home, and she was taken in the arms of Jesus. She was my prayer warrior. At the beginning of the school year in September, I had shared with her on the phone what a difficult school year I was having at the job I was in. And Aunt Alyse had promised that she was going to faithfully pray for me, and I know she did. Selfishly, I will always miss the fact that she was one of the people that lifted me up in prayer, and I will always miss that. She was my aunt, my friend, my spiritual guide. She was my light and one of the brightest stars shining from heaven. I always used to say that when I grow up, I want to be just like Aunt Alyse. Since that time, I have grown up, I think, but I can never be anything close to what she was, because she was the most incredible aunt on this earth.
Thank you, Vicki. We have so many memories, and so we'll continue that, at least I hope you will, sharing with us in the reception. We asked many of the family members to send pictures that meant something to them to my sister-in-law, Marilyn Lovelace, who has a gift for being able to take pictures and put them together in a meaningful story. And she did so in two parts. So one part is about family, biological family, adopted family that is here together. And the other half is about the extended family, her church family, which meant every bit as much to her. And so a number of you will see yourselves and people who have been on that journey with her throughout the years. And so honoring a life.
Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide. When other helper fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Swift to its close, ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim and glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. Oh, thou who changes not, abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to blaze. Ills have no weight, and tears no bitterness. Where is death's sting? Where, grave, thy victory? I triumph still if thou abide with me. Hold out thy cross before my closing eye. Shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. Heaven's morning rays and earth's faint shadows flee. In life, in death, oh Lord, abide with me. Abide with me. Abide with me.
Shall we gather at the river? When feet have trod with. It's crystal tight forever, flowing by the throne of God. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. We'll gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Soon we'll reach the shining river. Soon a pilgrimage we'll see. Soon our happy hearts will quiver with the melody of peace. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. We'll gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. We'll gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God, that flows by the throne of God.
Some wonderful people have organized a chance to continue our fellowship over food and drink in the social hall. And so they've asked me to ask the family if you wouldn't stand and make your way there first. It makes their job a lot easier than trying to get everybody from here to there all at once. So thank you if you'll do that part. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all of you who came out. Note, cousin Steve Peterson has long played his saxophone, and so graciously brought a CD of his music that we can listen to in the postlude. Thank you.